Hi guys, let's talk about what we truly hate and dislike about this Commander format. Now don't get me wrong, I really like this game and format, it's one of my top tier hobbies. But when you're in love with something, eventually you're finding bugs and concerns you wanna improve to help your darling. But I have a confession to make. You see, I don't have any answers to the problems I'm going to mention in this video. Now, you might think that I'm gonna mention different cards like Dockside Extortionist, Flash that we already banned, Underworld Breach, Fastest Oracle, and etc. No, I'm actually gonna talk about the concept of multiplayer and the rules in this format in general. Let's begin with concern and problem number 1, the turn order. Now I'm not holding this against Wizard of the Coast because the game was originally intended for 1v1 gameplay, and in that regards they've currently kind of fixed it. I mean, the starting player doesn't draw a card and the second player draws a card, so in that regard it is kind of balanced. But in this game there's no downside in going first, and there's no fixing for the huge penalty of going last just by being unlucky on the turn order dice roll. And I actually view this as a problem, considering that this is a turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 format. Okay, turn 2 wins are actually quite rare, but turn 3, turn 4, that are usually when the magic happens. And as you're the starting player, you're gonna be one turn ahead compared to your other opponents, and turns in this game are huge. You can do so much on the few turns you have. So if you are the starting player, you could basically ramp the first turn you have, then on the second turn you either ramp a little bit more or develop your board state in another form of way, or you cast a demonic tutor and then you're threatening to potentially win turn 3. And because you did this, all the other players have to adapt towards you because you are potentially threatening to win before everyone else. But it doesn't have to be a threatening win either. I've had a lot of games where I'm sitting on turn 2 with a Notion Thief and the person one turn ahead of me on their current turn 3 casting a Wheel of Fortune, and I can't do anything in time because they had one more turn before me. But if the turn order would have been reversed, if I had been lucky with the turn order dices, I would actually, in response to the Wheel of Fortune, been able to cast the Notion Thief if I would have had the same amount of turns as they had, and from that situation, I would most likely win the game. Now, this was of course just an example, but I'm certain that you have had experiences and games where you sat down and realized that if the turn order would have been reversed in some form of way, the entire outcome of the game would have been completely different, and that is my point. As this game is designed, compared to other card games like Hearthstone, we begin the game with 7 cards in our hand, and at the beginning of each turn we draw a card. So when you reach turn 3, you have a potential of 10 or more cards depending on what's been happening, but potentially 10 cards you could construct any form of win from, compared to someone being at turn 2 with an access of 9 cards. And the reason why this format is so fast is because in this game the power level is so huge that we are mostly capable of winning with a variant of 10 cards at random from our deck. And also I would like to mention that the commander is playing a huge role in this as well. But now we're starting to touch the point where I actually don't have a solution to this problem. You see, are we gonna change the real rules? No, I don't think that's gonna happen. But what I hope for this video is a conversation where we talk about certain problems and bring them to light. Because in my experience, the closer you are to the starting player, the higher the win rate you have. But I actually have a tiny solution to the problem. Gemstone Caverns is actually a designed card that would help this out in some form of way. It's a great card to have in your opening hand if you're not the starting player. But if you are the starting player, this is a terrible land. Let's move forward because I have more things to talk about. Number 2, kingmaking and coercion. Now, what is actually king making? Well, the straight answer is that you are yourself unable to win the game, but you can decide who between player B, C and D is going to win the game. And there's a lot of different potential ways that you can kingmake and also spite play in this game and format. However, here comes the tricky part. When you're trying to regulate it, it becomes a gray zone, and when you're starting to ask around what people consider kingmaking, opinions differ. Now, I don't want to sit here and try to separate you guys into different camps trying to debate between each other of what is kingmaking and what isn't, but I've actually asked questions to different people, the same questions of course, and I received different answers regarding if it is kingmaking or not. Because even though we're playing to win, we're playing competitive Magic, we still have some different opinions regarding to how different social situations and kingmaking potential situations should be resolved and what is okay and what isn't okay. Because when you look at the rules, what you are allowed to do, if you ask a judge, am I allowed to do this play? The answer is always, as long as you can pay mana, as long as you have priority, unless there's anything that is blocking you from casting the spell or doing your action, you are actually allowed to kingmake as much as you want. But it's really easy to all agree that kingmaking is bad. I'm really certain that everyone who is watching this video are gonna agree on the point that kingmaking is bad. No kingmaking at all, that's forbidden. No spite play. However, what is to be considered kingmaking, that's where our opinions are gonna differ. And imagine going to a Magic Fest or a big tournament of some sort where you don't know your opponents, you have never met them before, and you're going to play some competitive Magic, and in your own local group you have your understanding of what is to be considered kingmaking. You and your friends, you have made a social contract, you've talked it through, you know what kingmaking is, but you're going up against other people that have a different opinion that also might have sitting down and talked about what is to be considered kingmaking, and your social contracts and your views of it might differ. This problem is actually solvable as long as you contain it within your play group. For example, if you have talked it through with your 8 friends or 12 friends, depending on how big play group you have. For example, in our play group, we once had a local tournament where we were 12 people and we went to a restaurant, and the winner would have gotten a free meal sponsored by the actual restaurant. There were no entry fee to participate in the tournament at all, except you had to purchase a drink or a meal from the restaurant to basically make the restaurant do this. But there were no interest from anyone in king making, because in the end all you would gain is a free meal and you would lose potentially eternal friendship, and that's just not worth it. But if it would have been free beer, sacrifices might have been made. But imagine going to a bigger tournament with a lot of people with real prize money on the line, and maybe you even paid money to participate, and you're never gonna meet these people again in your entire lifetime. I mean, that might make some people coerce and kingmake. Or maybe they're not actually doing something considered kingmaking, but it's starting to arise a question around the play table if this is an okay play in general regarding the social contracts. But there is actually a way this could be solved as well. Whenever you have a big tournament, you're always going to have one or several, but usually one person who is a little bit more in charge, tournament organizer, and that person have most likely booked a big hall, might have put money on the line, might sponsor the tournament with prize money, have scheduled, have made contacts, have made a lot of different arrangements, and that person can simply say with the dictatorship, this is how my tournament is going to be played. This is the social contract, I'm deciding how it's gonna be. These are rules for this specific tournament. Obey or leave. And then another tournament constructed, run by a completely different tournament organizer, could have different rules. Respect the tournament organizer. I have been a tournament organizer myself, both in cEDH and in StarCraft 2v2 actually. And I can tell you, it's a lot of work. Another potential way we could solve this problem is by having a lot of conversations and debates between bigger playgroups globally until we find some form of consensus. We're probably gonna have some gray areas here and there, but in the majority, we might find some unified agreement on how the social contract and what you can't do and what you can't do and how and what is to be considered king-making and coercion. Coercion? That, I don't know, guys. That's a really weird word for me. Sometimes English is really strange. Alright, guys, this was a short video about the two big problems and concerns I have about this format. They might sound strange to you at first, but think about them and they might grow on you eventually. Or maybe you have other problems, other concerns about this format that you consider a potential threat and problem for its future or for tournament gameplay. But don't worry, if you're playing this game with your friends in your local tight playgroup, everyone knows each other, these problems are gonna feel like a far reach and you're probably never gonna run into them, because when you're playing with your best friends, like everything is gonna solve itself. The number word key here is communication, and just talk with your buddies, figure out how to solve it within your group, and then this isn't gonna be a problem for you guys. Maybe you have some concerns or problems in your own mind. I mean, these were only my two personal opinions and you could disagree with me, and maybe you have some further ideas of what could be a problem for this format. And once again, I'm not bringing this up because I dislike cEDH or I hate Commander or I hate Wizard of the Coast. I'm bringing this up because I want something that I love to become a little bit better. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, feel free to share my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link in the description below of the video will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.